Alright folks, want to make another video for the folks that are new to ECM Link. This one here is going to be geared to the guys that are running either a stock mass airflow sensor, a 3-inch GMF, 3.5, 3.75, and Evo, I believe it's the Evo 8 mass airflow sensor. So all we're trying to do in this particular video is just trying to get your car running. You're new to the program, you've never used it before. What all do you have to adjust? What is really going to be detrimental as far as the car running? Okay, this is your home screen. We're saying we connect. We can either pull up a log, which we're seeing over here with all your parameters. Now, I've got a lot more than what you're going to normally see when you have the program. When you're first firing it up, you may want to add what I have here for as many of these as you can. Sometimes it can be detrimental and trying to find out where things stand as far as coolant temperatures, your airflow, your wideband readings, or maybe your fuel trims over here. I've got other videos that cover this screen a little bit more in depth. Being able to view the parameters can be important, so you may want to have as many of these set up as possible. And from here, we'll go to ECU config, okay, which is this one, the section right here with all these tabs. You can either go from a log screen, or if you just want to get there just for your settings, you can hit ECU config live. Okay, this is an old log. I'm not hooked up to the computer in my car, so we're just going off a log. I'll just go through all the tabs that you might need, and then we'll go back through them as to reasons why. The ones you would need or possibly need: RPMs, fuel, MAF comp, narrowband O2, miscellaneous, and possibly ECU inputs. Okay, anything else you can pretty much ignore. If we have to go into direct access, the only one that you really may have to really use on this one is your injector battery adjust. Okay, so now that we've discussed which tabs you really got to worry about and ignore all the other ones, I mean, all the other ones are going to be for basically getting everything dialed in. We're going to go to our RPM tabs, and really the only reason why you should really even need this one is just if you have a set of big, huge cams and you've got to set your idle a little bit higher than stock, because it doesn't want to idle very well on low RPMs. It may want to die. So everything else you can basically leave alone if we're just worrying about being able to fire it up. Okay. Fuel, this is an obvious one. Car's not going to run without fuel. If you don't know that by now, step away from the keyboard. So aside from that, we want to be able to put in our correct global settings as far as your injector size. Now, the injector size may or may not match the actual injectors you have. I've discussed that in other videos, but if you're with a mass airflow sensor, it might be a good idea just to set the actual injector size that you have or get as close to it. When you get your base fuel pressure here matching what you're actually running, you may want to be able to figure out what that is. That'd be helpful. If you're just a stock fuel pressure regulator, then I'll try and post up a link as far as what those settings should be. And if this is a stock program to you, first time getting it out, whether it's a 1G or 2G, it may have those stock settings here anyway, so you can probably just leave that alone. And if you're on pump gas, you'd just be leaving this alone as well. If you're E85, I think it's like 9.8 or 9.9, something to that effect. All that's really going to do is just adjust how much fuel you're delivering anyway. But overall, the main important one, especially if you're running a mass airflow sensor, is just your injector size, and then your global dead time based on injectors. Now, if you're looking at the ECM Link wiki page where it's got a bunch of dead times listed, keep in mind those are suggestions. Those are not specific numbers for specific injectors. That is not always the same for every car. You may have to raise that number, potentially lower them. That normally is not the case, but you may have to raise them to add more fuel, because that would be one very good reason why you're not running. Again, this is for getting your car running. So what I will say on this particular section here is, if you're raising global dead time here, that is giving you more fuel. Lowering this number here is subtracting fuel. More than likely, you may not have enough if it's not wanting to run, you're not getting enough fuel, you may check your injectors, see if you're getting fuel. They may be squirting fuel, but it may not be enough. Okay. And let's see, let's moving on. Timing, we're not messing with that one. Math comp, you're going to need this one to decide which one you're using. Are you running a stock mass airflow sensor, Evo 8, or a 3G, 3-inch, 3.5, 3.75? Speed density, we're not ignoring if you're a speed density. We're not worrying about that one for this particular video. This is only for the mass airflow sensor guys. And of course, when you first get it, all of these are going to be zeroed out. Now, if you are on a stock mass airflow sensor or you're using a GM mass airflow sensor with a translator, you're going to be adjusting these two for your idle area. Again, I go into this a little bit more in depth in my other videos, but you're trying to get it started, so that's why I'm discussing it here. You're either moving them up or down, trying adjust your airflow, which in actuality adjust your fuel output. Raising them up adds fuel, going down lowers fuel, but it also determines your airflow. So again, you may want to watch my other videos as far as the math comp sliders in regards to that. Now, if you are a GM math guy and you have the cable, probably going to be in about the 500 to 600 range as far as your idle. That's where it's going to be at, really right around here. As far as if you're looking at your log, your Maferol hertz. Okay, see on this particular one I've got 43.4. You'd probably be reading right around the 500 600, but you want to get your other ones here around that same level. So again, this is where you're going to be adding or subtracting as far as your sliders to get it running. Okay. Then let's see, moving on, MAF clamp, we're not using that one. Speed density, if you're a mass airflow sensor, just disregard this one altogether. Aux maps, ignore this one. Idle air, don't worry about that. Narrowband O2, you're only worrying about this one if you have a wideband and you don't have a stock O2 sensor and you need the wideband to do dual function. You're getting the wideband to work as a wideband, but you also need it to be able to tell your ECU your stock O2 sensor readings that you can't deliver to the ECU because you don't have that sensor. So that's what this would be for. If you don't have a stock O2 sensor, then you would need this one, so that way the ECU knows how much fuel is supposed to be delivered based on that. Okay. If you have a stock O2 sensor, ignore this one altogether. This one does not apply to you. Okay. Nothing here in regards to it, actually being able to fire it up. The FPS or fuel pressure solenoid activation conditions, you can ignore that one. The EGR, you can ignore that one. Boost, you can ignore that one. You can always come back to the boost and set that one up later. Dash, you can ignore that one as well. Miscellaneous, you would need this one really only if you're needing to do test on solenoid activations. If you're trying to test injectors, if once it's running, again, we're not to that point yet. We're trying to get it running. But if you have anything other than a 95 or 96 cam angle sensor, then you would use this one right here. You would check it. Okay, I'll put the link in the description, but if you have anything like a first gen or a 97, 98, 99 cam angle sensor, you're going to check this box, and then you have to switch your firing order around. Okay, if you don't swap your firing order, and I'll try and put the link in the description on where to find the firing order that you need to have. If you have any other of these cam angle sensors and you don't swap your firing order around and you can't get it to run, well, there you go. That's probably your problem. You didn't swap the firing order around. That's what you'll need to do. Okay. But that really should be the only thing that you may need in this particular one to get it fired up and running. DTCs are basically your fault codes just to get it running. This is, you don't need this one, but, if you have any faults, you may want to come here and look just to see if you have any issues. Just like this one, I had a knock sensor malfunction. I had a wire that was resting up against the downpipe back when this log was taken, I believe, and melted through the wire, caused that issue. But if you have any other issues, it might be good to come back and look just in case. But other than that, nothing detrimental as far as getting it to run, unless it's telling you that there's a problem with a certain sensor or whatever the case. Then that's a good giveaway as far as what that is would be. And ECU and ECU inputs here. Only reason why you would really need this one for a mass airflow sensor is if you're simulating a narrowband O2 sensor with a wideband, and you've got to tell this section right here where to go to look for that. Okay. Aside from that, on a mass airflow sensor, you don't really have to have any of these here to be able to get it to run. Okay. Only other thing I'm going to mention over here as far as direct access, there's really none of these that you really need except for maybe the injector battery adjust, which is basically a voltage-based dead time. It is dead time depending on what your actual voltage is. Okay. Now you can use, starting off, you can use your global dead time over here in fuel. You can adjust right here, and then you can come back and dial these in if need be. Or if you've got a set of injectors and it's got a data sheet, you might want to go ahead and enter all these in. Okay. It might be helpful to get that done if you've already got that sheet, so that way you're that much closer. Again, those are suggested. Every injector is going to flow a different flow pattern based on each specific injector. Not, no two injectors are going to be flowing exactly the same. So it can be helpful in regards to these. But aside from that, all these tabs right here, that's really all that you should need to be able to get up and running with ECM Link. So long as you don't have some sort of mechanical issue, you have a boost leak, you've got a bad sensor or something to that effect. So long as you've got fuel, air, and spark, and everything's timed correctly, and all of your sensors are working, and as far as back on the fuel, air, and spark, so long as you have enough fuel. I've seen guys with twisted fuel lines. I've seen them with bad pumps. I've seen them with alternators that are dying. If an alternator is dying, it's not going to have a lot of fuel output. So all of those things, you want to make sure everything is in proper mechanical working condition to be able to get it up and running. So long as everything is good and you fire it up with those few little settings changed, you should be good to go. So if you got any questions, give me a holler. Hope y'all have a good one, and hope this helped you guys out. Hope you're running. Then just look at all my other videos for getting things dialed in. All right, y'all have a good one.